This is Lauren Kimball from ANI 150 with part 2 of building the details for our SciFi Crate. Last time we created a little crevice here to kind of suggest that there's a space between, or a separation between the lid and the base. And we also created one little corner of decoration. Now, some of you might be wondering, why don't we just go ahead and duplicate and position this? First off, because of the nature of how we've modeled this crate, which was modeling it in the center of the world graph, just like when we were chopping this crate up and mirroring it, we can do the same thing with these pieces where when we're ready we can just mirror, and it'll be a really quick step. But we're holding off on that because when we do mirror these pieces, we want to go ahead and have the UV maps laid out. That way, when we duplicate the piece, we duplicate those UV maps, and that's going to save us a lot of time. So don't fuss with duplicating this yet, all right? Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and create the little bottom corner guard buffer thing. I'm going to go ahead and, just like before, create a polygon mesh. But what we're going to do that's a little bit different is we're going to use a tool that I learned about while working on a contract for a rapid prototype print up in South Dakota. And essentially what the client had asked for was a 12-sided die with these custom numbers, not only textured on, but he wanted them modeled, indented into the die so that they could print the die with these custom fonted numbers. And after I had gone ahead and created a 3D representation of those numbers, I needed to attach them to each side of the 12-sided die, which is a little trickier than it sounds. But there's a cool trick that Maya has, and it's up in the modify tools. So I'm going to go up here to modify and just pull this shelf, this little set of tools off to the side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my base, and I'm going to shift right click and go to face mode. And then I'm going to shift click the little cube that I've made, and I'm going to right click and put that in face mode too. That way I can grab individual faces on each of either of these meshes. Now mind you, to make this work, you don't have to combine them, you don't have to do anything, you just have to be able to select what it is that you intend to move. So over here under modify, we have this tool called the snap together tool. Okay, I'm going to click it. And now I'm going to go over here to my box and click on the face, this face here, and I'm going to click on this face here. Okay. And I'm going to press enter. And voila, it is going to snap the box to that point, and it is really, really cool. Now, actually, now that I'm looking at this, I kind of wonder, I'm going to go back and just experiment real quick. I wonder if, because the tools become a little bit more sophisticated, I'm wondering if I even needed to put these in component mode. I'm going to click on snap together. This. Oh man, didn't even have to do that. How neat is that? Alright, and so now this crate is snapped up against that face without any sort of guesswork. It's super cool and kind of addictive to play with. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, and one thing that I'm going to do a little bit differently this time is I'm going to change the pivot point on this object. I'm going to press D, hold down my V key, which is snap vertice, and actually, you know what, before I do that, I'm going to press Control 1 and isolate this crate. Alright, then I'm going to press D, and I'm going to hold down my V key, which is my vertice. Remember, the D key allows me to change my pivot point. So I'm going to snap this back on that on the object's z-axis, and then I'm going to just click off. So I just wanted the pivot point, instead of being in the dead center of the cube, to be off to the far left, which is the side that, when we go Control 1 and go out of isolation mode, is the side that's kind of hugging this corner edge. And by doing that, when I scale this box down, it's going to scale up against that face. Now, the only downside with this tool that we've implemented is that you can't be super hyper accurate with where it's going to snap, but that's okay. Everything else we can kind of slide and move as we need to. In fact, I can go up here to my top view and sort of move and scale until it's pretty close to where I want it. And I'm going to push it in just a little bit because remember this is, we're not going to even be seeing the back side of this to begin with. And I may go into my side view here. It looks like this particular piece is going to hug right up against the edge and touch the ground. So I can go into, I can go into vertice mode, select these, and I'm going to snap this up to the tip of this edge and hold down V and snap the vertices to the bottom of the crate as well. So now it's looking pretty good. Alright, then just like before, I'm going to go right click and grab the faces. Make sure I only have the faces selected for this one object. And going to shift control and extrude. And I'll use the move tool. And now the move tool I had in the previous tutorial asked it to align to the object's orientation. I'm going to reset it back to world so that it's moving with the scene. I'll just push this back. Looks like maybe 1, 2 units. Yeah, that looks about right. And I'll go over here and do the same thing. Grab this face, extrude face, and move it like about 1, maybe 2 units or so. That looks pretty good. Cool. Alright, so you'll notice that there's this kind of cool indentation portion. Actually, this looks like it's not quite wide enough. So I'm going to right click, go to vertices, grab those vertices and extend them an extra unit. Remember my grid is set to about 80 divisions. Yeah, that looks a little bit more like the picture. Maybe a little more. It's kind of the downside when you don't have all the different views. You have to kind of wing it and see what looks right. There we go. That looks right. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put this back into object mode, and then I'm going to shift right click, and go into the insert edge loop tool. Click on the box that we're in its tool settings, and I'm going to go back. I'm going to leave it the way it was when we added the edge loops to the top up here. Only I'm going to change the results for the equal multiplier to 1. That way I get a really nice even cut there. Okay. And then I'm going to grab the vertices over on this, grab the vertices on this, okay, let's go Control 1. Grab the vertices and, what on earth is going on? Oh, I have the edge loop tool still selected. Make sure you go in and press Q for that select tool, that's important. Had I kept going, I might have added a whole series of edge loops, which wouldn't have been fun to clean up. Alright, now I'm going to click on my vertices, select them, and I can go ahead and press Control 1 because it's really not necessary to hide everything. And now I can start bringing these in. Now, you know, it'd be better if I just use my move tool because I'm not going to get this nice slide that holds to the edge if I don't do that. So maybe bring it in about 2 units. Grab this edge, bring it in about 2 units, so, and now that looks just like the one over here. Where'd it go? Come back. There's the crate. Okay. Alright, so now, just like the one before it, I'm going to go up here, maybe grab these inner vertices and bring them in just a little bit. Oh, maybe not that much, but just a bit so that they're kind of pushed inward. I just don't want there to be any gaps. They don't have to be this extreme. I just want to make sure that it's definitely inside the mesh so that we don't see any open corners. Because what we're going to do is I'm going to press on F8 and Control 1, and just like before, I'm going to limit the amount of face that I'm wasting by going in and grabbing these. Delete. I'm not going to see them anyway, so why have them? Why waste our polygon allowance, right? Alright, so now that we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and save, because again, I did make another significant change. and I have it saved since my lip extrude. So this one I'll just name details. Alright, so we've got two more parts of this to model. One of them is going to be these, a really simple mesh to represent the hinges. And then of course I'm going to worry about crate handles. Okay, so let's go with these hinges. I'm going to go ahead and create a little Polygon Primitive. And it really doesn't look like these hinges are very complicated. It just looks like, if I'm looking at the reference, it looks like kind of a rectangle with rounded off sides. So I could, looks like there's a little bit of an indentation there, so I could account for that if I wanted to. Doing it the same way that I did for the crate, which would be to shift, right click, insert edge loop tool, reset the tool, multiple edge loops to 2, use my scale tool once I've applied that and narrow this in, and go ahead and grab that edge loop, press shift to the right, make sure I grab all the sides. I can go ahead and shift right click, extrude face, and just like before, just grab that blue arrow and bring this in. Alright, that's starting to look good. I think the other thing that will probably look good here is to grab the face up here, and extrude again. Oops. Got my scale there. And there, that's got that nice rounded effect to it. Now these ones seem maybe a little bulkier, so I can go in and scale it out a little, like that. Bring it in. And then just like before, I could just drag this over, or I could use that really neat tool again. And of course that neat tool is under Modify, Snap Together. Want that to snap there, and done. I never get tired of that. Okay, so it looks like this is, and just like before with that corner piece, since I chose to just snap the faces like that, I'm going to press Control 1 and isolate it, use my D key to reposition the move tool, hold down V and snap on the X axis so that it's all the way to the back of this before pressing D again, pressing Control 1. And then because the pivot point's been pushed to the very back of the mesh, when I scale, it continues to hug that little wall bit. Move this down. Maybe look at it from the side view. Oh, that could work. That way I can make sure that this little gapped space here is aligning with the gap on the crate, so that they're going to end up bending together. Alright, and once I'm done with that, I can go above my mesh, push this in a little bit, just slightly. Press Control 1, and delete those faces we don't need. In this case, we're not doing away with as many, just this and this here. And it looks like, well, it looks like the top could also be done away with, so, oops. Forgot I can only isolate things that I have selected in object mode. If I have component mode, it won't work. So F8, Control 1. It looks like this top portion is pretty well hidden by the mesh too, so I can delete that. And another thing I could do is make sure that this is extended a little bit wider. So I'm going to grab everything. No, I'm not. I'm going to grab just vertice mode. Grab these top vertices, move this up, and move this down. That way you can't ever see the backs. And what will eventually be like a hinge. And I will be able to duplicate this 2 more times. But again, I don't want to right off the cuff because I want to UV map it first. So now I've got a hinge. I got these little pieces down here modeled. I'm going to press save. And next I'm going to worry about the handle. And that'll be the final mini tutorial on modeling the details on this here crate.